on my run. I stepped in dog poop. I'm just gonna wash it off real quick. But I thought, I still gotta wash it. What a fun way to start the random word generator. So this one's sponsored by Chatty. And Chatty gave me the question, if I could run one app on my phone for an entire year, what would it be? So super easy. The app is Freeform. It's an Apple iOS app. It's called Freeform. And what is Freeform, for those of you who don't know it? Basically what it is it's like a digital whiteboard. So it's got like grids, or like you can add grid patterns to it. But you open up a Freeform, and the documents are not called docs, they're called artboards. So these artboards you open up, and basically imagine it's like a sprint board, basically, a brainstorming sticky note board. You can put sticky notes, digital sticky notes in an artboard. You can put videos, you can put photos in it. You can connect things like into a diagram or into a flow chart. You can do voice memos. You can put like presentations all together and all that stuff. But what I use Freeform for is is my own variation of field notes. Okay, so here is September's field notes. You'll see, I got the date and then a video. Try to watch the video. Okay, something you can do is when you make these idea videos, right? And I got more and more and more. And it keeps going. Look at this. So these are all the ideas just for September. And let's see, where's August? Here's August. Look at this. Not allowing me to do. There we go. August. Just keep going. So, I honestly think I stole this idea from Thomas Edison. But there's a couple of biographies of Thomas Edison, but one of them is not a biography at all. It's kind of like a it's called How to Innovate Like Thomas Edison. And it basically, it chronologically goes throughout his life really quickly and then just like extracts all of these tactics or these methods that Thomas Edison used either intentionally or consciously or unconsciously to help him innovate. And one of them is every great inventor, every great prolific person that did something prolifically had a device or a system that they had invented to capture ideas. That's it. They just had something where they could capture their ideas. So John D. Rockefeller, one of the ways that he came up with all of his brilliant ideas was he always had a notepad on his desk. Whenever he came up with a good idea, he'd write it down in the notebook. And then he'd go back to all of his notes, assess them, analyze them, see which ones might work, which ones wouldn't. Doesn't mean that every single idea that he actually captured and documented was a good one, but it was that he had something to be able to go, oh, it's a great idea, dump it. Oh, that's a great idea, dump it. That's a great idea, dump it. And then be able to go back to those ideas later in a different state and be able to analyze and assess them and see like, how could I consolidate or synthesize those ideas into some thing that I'm working on at the moment. Christopher Nolan had and Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola, like all of these, and Quentin Tarantino, they all had an encyclopedic knowledge of their industry. Like they had an encyclopedic knowledge of all films. And all of them had some kind of capturing device to keep all of those ideas. In Steven Spielberg's biography and in Christopher Nolan's biography, both of them talk about how they would sit on ideas for decades. They'd see something in a film and go like, oh my gosh, I'm going to use that. Don't know when, but I'm going to use it. And then 30 years later, they would take that exact scene from that exact movie and just like put their spin and flair onto it within a movie that they're working on decades later. I almost just stepped in that same poop that I stepped in. but they had a capturing device. So why do I bring up Thomas Edison? So this book, Innovate Like Thomas Edison, it talks about you need to have a way to capture your ideas. So, what Edison would do is he would take journals or journal entries, notes. So when he was at Menlo Park specifically, they have tons of records for this. He had a tiny little team, and this tiny little team were just like, they were workhorses. They were putting in, 60, 80-hour work weeks every single week for 5 years. And they would take the most documented journals every single day of the things that they were working on, the experiments that they were trying out, the improvements that they were tinkering within the different products that they were innovating or inventing. And so they had this wealth of information where they were able to capture their ideas. Thomas Edison later goes in and says he always kept a notebook on hand so that, because basically he would say a flash of genius comes like lightning. You don't know when or where, but it might come at the spur of a moment. You need to have something that's actually going to capture that information. Okay, so why Freeform? Freeform is the one app that I would keep. If I could only keep one app on my phone, it would be Freeform, because I have used it not for its intended purpose, but for a way to capture all of my ideas and to treat it as field notes. In fact, I literally call it field notes. And I'll have I'll put a digital sticky note in it. And in that digital sticky note, I'll name it the day. And then whatever comes to mind, I'll just put in that thing. And then every week during my weekly planning session, there's a part where I says it organizes in my Niki pool. Organize my notes. Niki is an acronym for notes, ideas, quotes, or inspiration. Organize my field notes in Freeform and to put them in all the right places. So weekly, I am looking back on all of the things that I had thought of. And then monthly and even quarterly, I can look back and go whoa, that was a genius idea. And I didn't even know how to apply it, but now I definitely know how to apply it. Or that was a crap idea, that was a crap idea, that was a crap idea. That's kind of a good idea. But that idea with this idea that I had 17 days later, oh my gosh, that's gangbusters. That's amazing. And so if I could say anything, it would be that. It would be, how can you come up with your own capturing system? You need to come up with, for the longest time before Freeform, I would use iNotes. But iNotes weren't organized, they weren't visually appealing. You could only add 15 photos to an iNotes thing before it'd cap out, or 25 photos before it'd cap out. The way that you would load videos was really labor intensive. It just really wasn't what I was looking for. But Freeform is a way to capture all of these different forms, these different mediums, photos, videos, post-it notes, voice recordings. You can paste links to different websites. You can connect them, like I said, create diagrams or workflows or sequences like that. You can share those notes, those Freeform notes, with other people, and so they can collaborate or they have access to them. And so a great way to, if you're working on an idea, but maybe you don't physically live in the same area, or you guys are working in different zones, you work in the morning and that person works in the evening, you both have access to something that's constantly evolving over time, and you both have collaborative editing access to it. So the Freeform would be that you have a capturing device, something to capture your ideas. And it acts as a placeholder for you to go back on and assess and look at later. I have this saying, and I feel that I think it's an esoteric truth. And the Lindy effect feels like it applies to it very well. But you should always document more, because you can always repurpose later. Yes. You should always document more than what you're documenting, because you can always repurpose it later. And this is a great way to do that on the fly when you have a moment, an idea, a good solution, something that you need to talk to something about, even someone to buy. It could be this is the place, I'm just going to dump it into a capturing device, an app. And so the app that I would use would be Freeform. Why? Because it would act as a catch-all system to be able to store and then change, manipulate, modify, evolve, iterate, riff off of those ideas or the things that were put in that form, and providing me like a horizontal enabling labor that I create an idea, so I create one artboard. The whole artboard is just based on idea, and for a week it's just like, oh my gosh, this is a great idea. Oh my god, blah, blah, blah. And I find photos and videos and links, and I put notes and post-it notes and all this stuff, and it just becomes a gigantic jumbled mess of like a sprint board, almost like a backlog. And then I'm like, oh, life gets busy. I don't get back to that thing. But maybe 6 months later, I get introduced to someone. And that someone just so happens to love to do this and to make products like this. And I go, oh, God, you and I need to talk. Because I have this one artboard that I created like 6 months ago. I haven't even looked at it since. But if I want to share this with you, I want to collaborate with you on this, or at least maybe give you insights and ideas on maybe ways to make it better, or ways that maybe you could help me in making this thing become a reality. And now I'm able to take something from the past and be able to present it in the present. Funny, present it in the present, so that maybe it could be brought to market in the future. So, if I were to suggest one thing, it would be finding some kind of app where you feel you are not creatively confined or constrained as a capturing device to capture things that you can look back on later, reorganize, ameliorate, modify, improve over time, and that gives you the option or the opportunity to be able to collaborate and share that with others in the future. Because like Christopher Nolan and Steven Spielberg, you might have a great idea, and it's just not the right time or place to bring that idea to reality. But it might be the right time, place, and with the right people 3, 4, maybe even 5 decades from now. And had you not captured it, you wouldn't have been able to act on it. So today's is, what's the one app, if I could only have one app on my phone for a year, what would it be? It would be Freeform.